In today's video, we're going to look at some of the best and worst managers in baseball so far for the 2021 MLB season and kind of previously as well. We're going to do some manager rankings for 2021 right now, giving my thoughts and opinions on every manager. So yeah, but before I get into this video, 75% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed. So get your life together. Hit that subscribe button, turn notifications, and leave a like on this video. Subscribe, turn notifications, and leave a like on this video. And let's go ahead and get into this video ranking every MLB manager for 2021. So, as you see, we've got a tier list on the screen. We have got a bunch of different tiers. S, that's the elite managers. A, very good managers. B, C, average. D, below average. F, terrible manager in my opinion. And too early to rank. And that means, what if a team is in a rebuild and that manager I really just don't think has had enough time, maybe a first year manager in a rebuilding type scenario, and I just don't think that he has had really enough time to prove himself and what he can do in Major League Baseball. So yeah, those are the tiers. Let's go ahead and get to this video. Like, if all of them are not totally updated, then I'm just going to rank for that manager in 2021. Like, for example, Ron Renicky in Boston last year. Alex Cora is a new manager, or old new manager there, so we will rank for Alex Cora, not Ron Renicky. I couldn't find an updated 2021 MLB manager tier list on Tier Maker, so we're going to go with the 2021. So, let's go ahead and start with the Oakland Athletics. Bob Melvin. Bob Melvin is the guy that continuously gets something out of an Oakland Athletics team that maybe is not built to go to the playoffs every year. But he still gets a ton out of his players, and that's what I like with Bob Melvin as a manager. And he's done that once again this year. 24-17 start for the Oakland Athletics, 5-5 in the last 10, 13-11 at home, and 11-6 on the road. Those stats are as of May 16th. So, yeah, the Athletics continue. Bob Melvin continues to get what he can get out of his players. And I think that he is a A-tier manager. I think that he does a very, very good job in Oakland, in a small market. They don't spend a lot of money, and I think Bob Melvin does a fantabulous job for what he has. Brian Snicker. This is an interesting one. Brian Snicker the last few years has been a very good manager. But this year he's not really done much. 19-20, 2 games back already of the NL East for the Braves. 6-4 in the last 10, 9-11 at home, and 10-9 on the road. Brian Snecker, it's no secret that he is an old school manager. And the more and more years that go by, the more and more years that Brian Snecker is just kind of the way he does things is just kind of not really in the game of baseball anymore, and I don't think that really helps his ranking a lot either. And the 2021 MLB season has not been great. I do like what he's done in previous years with this Atlanta Braves team. But what he's done this year has not really been much. I'm going to put him in the B tier. I think that like I said, the more and more years that baseball keeps changing, the more and more years that Brian Snicker is really just kind of gonna be farther and farther away from what he likes to do managing wise. So, next is Craig Counsell of the Milwaukee Brewers. They're currently 20-23 games back in the NL Central, 3-7 in their last 10 on a 3-game losing streak, 9-12 at home, 11-8 on the road. So this Brewers team is interesting because this is just a very interesting team because not a lot of hitting, not a ton of talent either for them. So let's go ahead and look at some of their records from the past few seasons. Let's go and look here at some of their previous seasons. Like I said, 20-20 on the season so far this season. So they are currently, they have had Craig Counsell under manager since 2016. So since then, 2016, 73-89, 86-76 in 2017. 2018, 96-67. That was a big year for them. 2019, 89-73. In 2020, 29-31, still made the playoffs. So 20-20 so far in 2021, like I've said. So they've made it to the playoffs 3 out of Um, 3 out of 5 years that Craig Counsell has been under manager in Milwaukee, so that's been pretty good for them. But still, Craig Counsell, I don't think is that great of a manager, honestly. I think that he kind of is right there at average. I don't think he's great at managing, honestly. Next is Derek Shelton of the Pittsburgh Pirates. 17-22 on the season for the Pirates so far. 4-6 in the last 10, 8-10 at home, and 9-12 on the road. Simply, he goes in this too early to rank because I can't really say much about Derek Shelton right now. The Pirates are supposed to be bad, and they are. I think when he gets to more of a contending team, if you're asking me in 1 to 2 years about Derek Shelton, then I could give you more of an answer, but I don't think I can really give you much of an answer on a rebuilding Pirates team. He has done pretty solid this year, though, with what he has. Next is the St. Louis Cardinals and Mike Schmidt. 23-17 so far this season, 5-5 in the last 10 on a 2-game losing streak, 12-8 at home, and 11-9 on the road. Mike Schmidt is much better than Mike Matheny, who was their old manager, and Mike Matheny just was not very good. So, just not a very good manager was Mike Matheny. But let's go ahead and look here at the previous years of Mike Schmidt. I think he's had 3 years maybe under manager. So, yeah, he's had 3 years under manager. In 2019, he actually was switched out for mid-season, but 91-71, 30-28 in 2020, 23-17 to start 2021. I don't think that Mike Schmidt is an absolute great Schilt is an absolute great manager, but I think he is a solid manager. I think I'll put him more to that B tier as well. David Ross is the next one, 18-20. He had a great year for the Chicago Cubs last year, but I'm not that big of a David Ross fan as a manager. I think that he can provide something just a couple years removed from playing baseball himself. But I think that David Ross you've kind of got to look at the talent of the team. You've got to evaluate that as well because the talent of this team, a lot of hitting, but not a lot of pitching. So, I think it's C tier. I think he's probably just in the middle at average. Next is Tori Lavella of the Arizona Diamondbacks, 18-22 so far this season, 3-7 in the last 10, 5.5 games back, 9-8 at home, and 9-14 on the road. I think that he did a pretty solid job in 2019. Very disappointing back in 2020. But you look at 2021 here, and they've been okay. I still think that Tori Lavello is on the hot seat as a manager. I don't see him staying there much longer after another what seems to be a bad season. I think I'm going to give him a D tier. I don't really think he's that great. Next is Dave Roberts. Now, there's been a lot of opinions on Dave Roberts. Now, he brought the Dodgers to the World Series back in 2020, but then 4 years previous, he didn't do much with the talented roster that he has. So, I've got to evaluate here what David Roberts is as a manager, not as the talent of a team, because he has a ton of talent, but it's what he does with that talent at the end of the day. And this year they've been disappointing. 22-17, yes, they're on a 4-game winning streak, but still they've been rather disappointing this year. And Dave Roberts, if I'm ranking him as a manager, I'm going to put him as a B tier. I don't think that he's a great manager. I think if you put him on a slight or a more worse team or a worse team than the Dodgers, then it would be a lot different. Next is Gabe Kepler. This may seem crazy, but Gabe Kepler I think is going into the A tier for me. Gabe Kepler has done a very, very good job with the San Francisco Giants since he's been under manager. They were only 1 game back of making the playoffs back in 2020. Yes, expanded playoffs, but still, 23-16 so far, half a game up in the Indiana West. 5-5 in the last 10 on a 2-game losing streak. 14-4 at home and 9-12 on the road. He has done a great job for not that talented of a Giants team, honestly. So I think that he has done a very, very good job so far. Joe Maddon. I'm not a fan of Joe Maddon. I'm really not. He's an old school manager that's just not been very good since being in Los Angeles. He's done some good things with the Cubs, but I still am leaning more and more towards Joe Maddon as just a bad manager, honestly. 16-22 right now for the Angels, 6.5 games back, 3-7 in the last 10. 4-game losing streak, 8-9 at home, and 8-13 on the road. Here's the thing. Yes, he doesn't have a lot of talented pitching, and the Angels pitching wise, are not totally built to win. But he's got to get the best he can get out of these players, and I don't really think necessarily that he's doing that. If I'm putting Joe Maddon here, I think he's a C2 manager. I don't think he's that great. Terry Francona of the Cleveland baseball team. He is very, very good. Very, very good. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. Let me go ahead and look at their records from the last few seasons because Terry Francona has been under manager for this team for quite a long time. So let's go ahead and look at their record. Obviously they're, but 2020, 35-25. Yes, they lost an AL wildcard game, but still 93-69 in 2019, 2018, 91-71, 102-60 in 2017, 2016, 94-67. This team has not had the most talent, but they've continually made the playoffs. I think that Terry Francona is an S-tier manager. I think that he's got to be my first guy into S-tier manager. He has been so good with, like I said, a Cleveland baseball team that is not very talented. Like, it's honestly close to average. Like, it's close to mediocrity. But still, Terry Francona is doing something special with this team. Moving on to Charlie Montoya of the Toronto Blue Jays. Charlie Montoya, so far this season, 21-17, 2.5 games back, 7-3 in the last 10, 8-5 at home, 13-12 on the road. They made the playoffs back in 2020, got swept by the Rays, but that was kind of expected. Charlie Montoya, I don't think it's too early to rank. I think he's a solid manager, but I think he is kind of average. I think that if you put a different manager on the Blue Jays, they would probably get the same thing that Charlie Montoya does. I don't think he's doing anything special. Scott Service of the Seattle Mariners. I don't think that he's the manager for the future of the Seattle Mariners. They're 20-20 right now. 3.5 games back, 4-6 in the last 10, 11-9 at home, 9-11 on the road. I don't think that he's a terrible manager, but I don't think that he's the future of the Seattle Mariners team manager. I think that he probably goes into the D tier. He's not a particularly great manager, but still. Next is Don Mattingly of the Miami Marlins here. Don Mattingly got a lot out of the Marlins in 2020, finishing in second place and making the playoffs, and making it all the way to the division series, where they got beat by the Braves pretty bad, but still. 17-22 so far, 4 games back, 4-6 in the last 10, 8-9 at home, and 9-13 on the road. Yeah, they're clearly the one season back in 2020 kind of seems like a fluke. Don Mattingly, I kind of put in that D tier. He's kind of an old school manager as well, and I don't think that he's the manager of this Marlins team for the future when they're supposed to be that very, very good team. Next is Luis Rojas of the New York Mets. Yeah, I have some opinions on him. And they're not great opinions, I'm sure, but Luis Rojas, I'm not a big fan of. I think that he kind of is the reason why the Mets have not been great like they were expected. Yes, they've been good, and they're leading the NL East right now at 18-15, 7-3 in the last 10. 11-4 at home and 7-11 on the road. Here's the thing. I still am not a big fan of Luis Rojas as a manager. I think he's in that D tier. I think he could honestly be in that F tier. I'm not a big fan of him as a manager. He's not done that great of a job. And, yeah. Moving on to Dave Martinez in Washington, who they're currently in 5th place right now. 15-20, 4 games back, 3-7 in the last 10, 9-10 at home, and 6-10 on the way. On the road. You know what I mean. So, here's the thing. Dave Martinez, I don't think he's done a particularly terrible job. He got the World Series in 2019. But I think that might have been pure talent at the end of the day, instead of managing. Because in 2020 and 2021 so far, he's probably like an F-tier manager. Like, he's not done that great. I'm going to put him in the C tier because of that World Series. Does bring him up a little bit. Brandon Hyde of the Baltimore Orioles has to be in the too early to rank tier. I think you have to put a better team around him to see what he can actually do as manager, because they've been a bad team since he's been their manager. 16-23 so far this season, 8 games back already. 2-8 in their last 10, 5-15 at home, and 11-8 on the road. They started out very good in 2020, but like I said, I will have to see him with a better squad. So next is Jace Tingler. Jace Tingler in 2020 was the manager. He did pretty solid. 2021 so far, 23-17, half a game back, 6-4 in the last 10, 11-10 at home, 12-7 on the road. He's had to overcome a lot of injuries. That's been part of the problem with the Padres not being as great as expected, not being in first place. You would expect them to be in first place coming into the season, with the Dodgers not being as great. But Jace Tingler, I still think, is probably more in that B tier of a manager. Next is Joe Girardi of the Philadelphia Phillies. He didn't get the Phillies to the playoffs in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I'm not mistaken. Joe Girardi has a fantastic track record. Fantastic track record. He's had a great track record, like I said, but those were some pretty good Yankees teams as well. So, yeah, in 2020 they missed the playoffs. Glad I'm not crazy on that one. But they were just... but, yeah. So, here's the thing. Joe Girardi's a very good manager. I think he kind of does place into that A tier, though. As a manager, he's a very, very good manager. Chris Woodward of the Rangers. He's got a lot out of his team this year. 18-23 so far, 4-6. They're on a 5-game losing streak, 9-10 at home and 9-13 on the road. So, Chris Woodward here. I think that he did a terrible job in 2020. Very, very bad. But in 2021, I think he's done a better job. I think you've seen the improvement. If I'm ranking him after his 2020 performance going into the 2021 season, then maybe I would put him in like the F category. But I think that he's made some improvements to his managing skills. I'm gonna put him in the D tier. You could easily put him in too early to rank as well. But yeah. Next is Kevin Cash in Tampa Bay. Kevin Cash continually gets the most out of his players. 22-19 so far, 3 games back only, 6-4 in the last 10, 3-game winning streak, 10-12 at home, and 12-7 on the road. He continually gets the best out of his players. Similar to Bob Melvin, and he goes in the same tier as Bob Melvin in A. Right behind Bob, or probably right in front of Bob Melvin. He has got his teams farther, but I think the A tier is a great spot for Kevin Cash. David Bale. I think he might be our first manager in the F tier. He is not good. I think I'm going to put him in the F tier. David Bale is just a bad manager. I don't think I have to do much explaining here. They should have been the first place team in that NL Central in 2021 or 2020 and barely sneaked into the playoffs. 18-19 so far in 2021. Yes, only 1 game back of 500. But look at the weak division they're playing in. Not a good manager at all. Ron Renicky, not the manager currently of the Red Sox. We are going for Alex Cora here. Alex Cora is getting into the S tier. Alex Cora is a really, really good manager. Something about the Red Sox and Alex Cora just works. They have been such a surprising team so far in 2021, a projected 4th place team. 25-16 to start the season, 7-3 in the last 10 on a 3-game winning streak. He has been fantastic since he's been very, very good. I think he gets into the S tier. He's got World Series experience too. I know the cheating scandal, but still, he's been great with the Red Sox in 2021. Bud Black, D tier. Bud Black is not great. He also doesn't have a talented team around him this year. 5th place right now, 15-25, 4-6 in the last 10. Like, he's not supposed to be good this year. I think a D tier is fine. Next is Mike Matheny. Mike Matheny is a manager that's kind of old school as well. And I don't think that he is doing a great job in Kansas City. I'll put him in the D tier. I don't think he's done a great job at all. And the Royals are 18-21, 2-8 in their last 10. They're on a 1-game winning streak. They just lost 12 games in a row. Yeah, he could easily be an F by the end of the season, but I'll put him in D right now. Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker, he's a very good manager, but also, I think in 2 years he cannot be a major league manager. I just don't. Dusty Baker. So far in 2021, The Astros are 23-17, 8-2 in their last 10 on a 5-game winning streak. He definitely got a lot out of their players in 2020. Definitely. But I don't know. I think that he is more of probably a B-tier manager. We're going to go for A.J. Hinch here of the Tigers. A.J. Hinch is kind of a guy that I put in that too early to rank tier. I know that this may be, how's it too early to rank him? But here's the thing, he had a talented team in Houston. He had Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa. Yes, they were using trash cans, but still, he had a very talented team. The Tigers so far are 14-25, fourth in the AL Central, 6-4 in the last 10. So very interesting here. He's too early to rank, I think. I think you'll really have. I think I really can maybe rank him after the season or before the season next year. Yeah, Rocco Baldelli. Rocco Baldelli is. This is an interesting one. A very interesting one here because, so far I would really like to give Rocco Baldelli like an F tier because that's how his team's been playing. 13-24 in the AL Central right now, 2-8 in their last 10, 9.5 games back, 5th in the AL Central. So, I think they might indeed have the worst record in Major League Baseball. But he's had 3 years, 101 and 61 in 2019, 2020, 36-24, 30 and 13-24 in 2021. I think that he's a regular season manager. I'm just going to be honest. He's a regular season manager. He's not doing anything in the playoffs for this team. And simply, I think he's a D-tier manager. I don't think he's that great of a manager. Tony Larussa in Chicago. I'll give him C. I think he's like kind of average, maybe even below average as a manager in 2021. The past is obviously great, but it's the past. 23-15 in the AL Central right now. I think they have maybe the best record in baseball, or second, or close. Okay. 7-3 in the last 10, 13-8 at home, and 10-7 away from their home ballpark. So yeah, Tony La Russa I think is a solid manager in like 2010, but I think if you're asking me to rank him in 2021, I would say differently. Final manager on this list is Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone, I'm 22-17. They're second in the AL East right now, but they could easily, after losing a game, could be fourth place in the AL East. So 7-3 in their last 10. They've had a terrible start to the season. I simply think Aaron Boone's a terrible manager. I think he's horrible. I think he's got to go. I seriously do. I think he's got to go. So let's quickly review my manager rankings again here. So coming in the S tier, we've only got 2 managers, both from the AL, Terry Francona and Alex Cora. So in the A tier, we've got Kevin Cash, Bob Melvin, Gabe Kepler, and Joe Girardi. B tier, we've got Brian Snicker, Mike Schilt, Gabe or Dave Roberts, Jace Tingler, and Dusty Baker. For the C tier, we've got Craig Counsell, David Ross, Joe Maddon, Charlie Montoya, Dave Martinez, and Tony La Russa. D tier, we have got Tori Lavella, Scott Service, Don Mattingly, Luis Rojas, Chris Woodward, Mike Matheny, Bud Black, and Rocco Baldelli. And in the F tier, we've only got 2 managers, but they're bad. David Bale and Aaron Boone. And too early to rank, we've got Derek Shelton, and we've got Brandon Hyde, and we've also got A.J. Hinch. So, yeah, that's my tier list right there. If you enjoyed this video, like I said, leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications, because 75% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed. So get your life together, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications, and leave a like. Thank you for watching, and peace.